Let me take you back a few years. It's more than a few years. The year was 2006. My Chemical Romance's The Black Parade just came out, and I have to mention it because I absolutely loved that CD. I listened to the crap out of that CD. I remember I got it for my birthday, and so that was amazing. But not only did one of the best albums of all time come out, which I still believe it. The Nintendo Wii came out in 2006. 2006 was a banger year. It really, really was. So I was literally sitting in my room, playing my Wii, listening to the Black Parade, watching my Naruto, because Naruto only came to America in 2005. So Naruto was really popular by then too. And I was just a little kid. I was probably 12, but those weren't the only reasons why 2006 was great. Also in 2006, a man named Katsumoto, at least that's his nickname, because I don't think anyone knows his real name. A man by the name of Katsumoto created a blog, all Japanese, all the time, otherwise known as AJATT. You've heard me talk about this a lot, so I finally wanted to make a video explaining what is all Japanese all the time and kind of give you the history of it all, at least by what I know. I didn't start learning Japanese until about 2019, so I regret not finding this until, 2019. It really sucks that I couldn't be part of the inception of this kind of thing, but I still feel like the history behind AJATT is very, very interesting for a number of reasons, because it's just an interesting blog. The things that Katsumoto writes is really interesting. Also, the movement that AJATT made when it comes to learning Japanese is still like kind of prevalent to this day, and I feel like it's really changed the online language learning space. This is going to be my poorly worded, bad I'm not a video essay maker. This is just going to be me chatting about what I know about AJATT. I have a million tabs open. Katsumoto in 2006 created this cool looking website. I love how retro, I don't know. I love how simple this is. AJATT.com, all Japanese all the time. It's such a cool name. Like, I don't think anyone's gonna top that name, AJATT. It just rolls off the tongue. So who is Katsumoto and why did people listen to him? So keep in mind, in 2006, YouTube has only been around for like 1 year. There's no other apps. There's no apps. Apps didn't even exist at this time. When we had cell phones, like the only apps that were on your phone were just like games, and they were really bad. I think we had Diner Dash, Snake, like really basic fun like games that were not, it was nothing like we had today. Like there was no streaming services. I think maybe there was Napster, maybe at this point. I don't think so, but there was definitely no YouTube videos about how to learn Japanese, giving tips, but there was AJATT. So if you wanted to learn Japanese, the only way that you had was to either read a textbook like Mina no Nihongo or Genki, or just go to school, go to your local college, or I guess travel to Japan and go to a language school, were probably the only methods to learn Japanese. So here comes Katsumoto with his AJATT website. People started to take notice about like his method and think, oh, this is really interesting. And so you're probably thinking like, well, why listen to him? Well, his story goes something like this. I'm your host Katsumoto. My zits have been photoshopped out of the picture. He learned Japanese in 18 months by having fun. In June of 2004, at the ripe age of 21, all post-pubescent and supposedly past my mental linguistic prime, I started learning Japanese by September 2005. He's referring to how like people say, well, you can only learn languages as a baby or something like that because babies do naturally learn languages. So by 2005, I had learned enough to read technical material, conduct business correspondence and job interviews in Japanese. By the next month, I landed a job as a software engineer at a gigantic Japanese corporation in Tokyo. Yay! That's a pretty big claim that somebody was able to learn Japanese in 18 months to fluency without going to language schools or anything like that. That's pretty insane. I think anyone would argue that's very insane to be able to do something like that. I didn't take classes except for a high school newspaper reading class, which merely confirmed that classes suck. I didn't read textbooks and I never lived in Japan. So how did I do it? Well, by spending 18 to 24 hours a day doing something, anything in Japanese, all Japanese all the time. That sounds like a lot of time to invest, but I was almost as busy as you are, a full-time student majoring in computer science at a university in the armpit of the US, Utah, physically far from Japan and Japanese people. I had computer science coursework, jobs, and even non-Japanese significant other. In other words, I had a life. That is insanely an impressive and bold claim, considering like when I started in 2019, that's the excuse I always use for myself. Like, oh, I'm not good at Japanese, you know? Yeah, it's the reason why I'm not good at Japanese now is because I always thought, well, I didn't really have all the time, but clearly Katsumoto solved this back in 2004 or whenever he did it. So that's very impressive to be able to do something like that. So at this time, this was like the only source that you could find, as far as I know. Again, I wasn't surfing the internet a lot in 2006. I was too busy listening to My Chemical Romance. As far as I know, this was like the only thing that you could find when it comes to learning Japanese. And I believe typing into Google learning Japanese, AJATT would be like the first result. I know this because my boy Tikio Sam talked about this in a vlog. He moved to Japan around this time when, upon this blog's like inception or whatever. And not only that, he was actually friends with Katsumoto as well. He was like actually really probably the closest person to Katsumoto at the time. And so he is real. Katsumoto is real. And there is videos on Tikio Sam's channel. This is literally a video of Tikio Sam interviewing him.
So Cats, you run a website about learning Japanese or something, right? So hey, so I'll ask you some questions that
I love these videos
that are too fucking lazy to read your site. Yeah. So how do you start? Because both you and I kind of took some classes, before we started.
I didn't, thank you very much.
You took Chinese, though. That kind of, kanji-wise, that you kind of got a early start.
Yeah, but it's like, it doesn't really make a difference, because it's like saying you became a millionaire, and like, but you had $10 in your pocket. It's like, it doesn't, you had 10 more bucks than me. It's like, it doesn't.
It's a good point, yeah, but yeah, you can check out Tikio Sam. I've met Tikio Sam a few times, and I really like Sam. I like hanging out with Sam. Hey, if you're watching this, Sam, we gotta hang out next time. The heck? I miss you. But yeah, so a lot of this information does come from Tikio Sam, because again, he was the closest one. They met up, like they both just happened to live in the same town in Japan. And at one point, this was like obviously after the website it was been created and after Katsumoto has already been like fluent, because he didn't get fluent in Japan, but he did end up moving to Japan. They became like really close friends. So yeah, a lot of this information about like the things that were available, Sam talks about that.
If you ever want to get a beer, just let... I didn't mind.
He talks about that in this video right here. So yeah, big shout out to Sam. And so he made this blog that got really popular, and a lot of people kind of flocked to it because it was that answer to like, oh man, I really think that like Japanese classes are boring or textbooks are really boring. And so when people read about Katsumoto's story, they saw like, oh, there's another way to learn Japanese and you can do it by having fun. That sounds amazing. Sign me up. It literally says right here, you don't know a language, you live it. You don't learn a language, you get used to it. And I completely agree with that. But this was just such an unorthodox method of learning Japanese that really just wasn't spoken about, right? Like you just have to remember the time. There was no podcast at this time, hardly. If there was, I'm sure like they were not popular. Like you had the radio, TV, but it's nothing like today. So you just got to keep in mind, this was so new and crazy at the time. Now, his website tells you how to learn Japanese, but it doesn't teach you Japanese, if that makes any sense. So this website is not about, it's just about the method on how to do it. Things to use, tips, things like that, not like actually teaching you Japanese. Now, again, because I wasn't around for the inception of AJATT, I guess at this point for a long time, there was really no proof that, Katsumoto actually spoke Japanese. I don't know when this video was uploaded. Oh, actually, it says right here, 2008, right here. So yeah, what was crazy is that people were just kind of believing that he was, fluent, and they believed his story. And so like, he was getting a lot of people like leaving comments and creating this community online. But finally in 2008, he uploads this video. Well, it says 2008 right here, but it says it was actually uploaded in 2009. This is actually his YouTube channel, and this is him speaking Japanese. So this is what it sounds like.
今更さ、変な発音してるビデオをね、流しても、しかも初ビデオとして、そういうやつ流してももう、あれだよ。もう大変なことになるぞ。大変なことになる。だからその、お前最初から日本語できないんじゃないか。
It's an 8-minute video of him speaking Japanese, which is pretty impressive, right? And Japanese people have actually reacted to this, and they're like, yeah, no, he sounds great. He actually was fluent in Japanese, but I just think it's really crazy that people just like took his word for it and didn't really know, but the stuff that he would say would make a lot of sense. So what is the method of AJATT? The method of AJATT is right here. Literally, it's called The Method and Overview. This is one of the first blog posts on this website. Phase 0, believe. Start believing you can do it. You're thinking, that's stupid. Katsumoto has been eating stale sushi again. How is this a phase? But you'd be amazed how many people set off that noble journey of learning Japanese, but forget to first believe that they can reach their destination. What a dreadful way to begin a start off, but not you. You're going to start believing that you can and will become fluent in Japanese. Believing yourself is essential, but by itself, it obviously won't get you anywhere. We know the ability is useless without motivation, but motivation is just a substitute for knowledge, and knowledge is gained through daily practice. So like the things that he says make really a lot of sense. So I can see why people like believed in him even without the proof, but it was just nice that he actually did have proof that he was fluent in Japanese, and that at least if you don't believe everything he said, that he was actually, you know, kind of knows what he's talking about by being fluent in Japanese. This is why I'm so drawn to AJATT, even though I started in 2019, because like this is the kind of stuff that, this is the way that I think anyway. I do believe that belief is very important, right? Because like, why would you do something if you don't believe that it's possible to do it? There's no harm in believing that you can do something, because I think that'll take you so far. Just not believing you can do something and just saying, well, we'll just see. Like, I don't know. I've always believed that belief is important. I believe that belief is important. That's stupid, but it's true, which is why, like, even though I'm not fluent in Japanese, which I have so many good reasons as to why that is, I still believe that it's going to happen, and I'm still working on it every single day. Belief is very important. And then he talks about an SRS based repetition system. This was Anki around this time? When was Anki created? Let's Google this. Oh my god, 2006. 2006 was insane. 2006 was a pivotal year. I tell you what, man. Holy crap. If I can trust Google AI, that is. Wikipedia says, yeah, 2006 as well. So I think the SRS that he was talking about was actually totally different from Anki. I know he ended up making his own SRS system, and also like there was other ones that were similar to Anki, but Anki, it's still like one of the most popular ones to this day, so it's pretty crazy if you think about it. I guess there was one called this one, Mino Sign, what? And then there was one called Super Memo. So at this time he was advocating for SRS, and also weirdly enough, this is something that I'm not sure if I agree with completely, but he talked about remembering the kanji, which, you know, all this stuff comes from this. This is where it all started, as far as I know. He talked about, like, yeah, remembering the kanji by James Hayseg, basically to go through the 2046 generally used kanji in your SRS. But this was before he says do the kanji, remember the kanji just by name, before learning hiragana and katakana, which is pretty crazy. But I mean, since you're only remembering the kanji by name, I guess that's not super crazy. But if it were up to me, I think you should just probably learn just hiragana and katakana right off the bat, to be honest. But I guess his method was just basically kanji is going to take longer, so you should do that first. Yeah, he said, like, if you're going to do 25 a day, it'll take 3 months. At 12, it'll take 6 months, and that's fine. And yeah. And then the next big thing in the method was to read 10,000 Japanese sentences out loud. Again, I think this just means make 10,000 sentence cards with Anki or whatever SRS that you're using to learn Japanese. And by the time you get to 10,000, you'll basically be fluent. That's basically what it says. Do not learn individual words. I completely still agree with this. Learn from sentences. Do not translate sentences, understand them instead. Now, this is kind of, you know, I wouldn't say this is controversial, but like, I don't completely agree with this, you know, at least in my experience, that like translating sentences, understand them instead. Like, yes, you should try to understand them, but just to know what the sentence means, I don't see what's wrong with that. Basically, he advocated for like learning Japanese in Japanese. And then do not learn grammar rules. Do get a feel for grammar, do read about grammar if you feel like, but learning grammar rules in order to use a language is like learning quantum physics in order to drive a car. Sure, grammar rules are rules of a language, like quantum physics is the rules of the physical world, but it's not practical. You're not a computer compiler evaluating expressions based on rules. You're a human being, and humans use a different logic. When you speak your native language, you generally are mixing and matching entire sentences. That's why you want to do it in Japanese. Learn sentences, because not only do they give you the grammar, but also vocabulary and usage. And thinking back, right, like, I mean, I might not be able to remember everything from a little child, as, you know, when I learned languages, but think about it, like, none of us can really remember how did we learn our original language. And this is really what AJATT was all about. It's about basically replicating the same thing that you did as a baby, but as a human. So creating an environment, watching things, because what I do remember when I was a little kid was like yes, we went to school, but before you even go to school, you learn a lot of English. You get pretty good at English even before you go to school, right? You get good at talking to your mom and things like that, and you're constantly sitting in front of the TV watching things like Toy Story or Jurassic Park, which is what I did. Just constantly watching TV because your parents want you to probably go do something else than bother them. If you think about it, that's a lot of the things that we did when we learned, and I don't remember learning really grammar. I was never good at grammar when I was in school at all. Like throughout all of my school, I hated English class. I hated grammar. I never really understand. Like I can't tell you what a lot of things are when it comes to like, like objectives, like, okay, I know like verb is what you do, but I am actually stupid when it comes to that stuff, which is why like when I open up a textbook and they start talking about all these like things that I didn't even care about in English, it's like, how the hell am I supposed to care about this in Japanese? So that's literally why I don't learn that kind of stuff either. I do agree with that it is possible to basically, instead of learning like, oh, well, if you learn this grammar rule, you can do this and that. It's more of like, okay, well, how do I say the thing that I want to say? What is the sentence for it? And I learn the sentence. And by learning the sentence, I learn the grammar naturally. And that's something that I agree with too. And so his blog was endless posts, basically about, tips about learning Japanese. All the like different like websites he would link and stuff. And this was really big information for a Japanese learner at the time with hardly any other information. There was no YouTube videos of people saying how to do it. So yeah, this started it. And in case you didn't believe that it worked or not, there was actual proof of people that used it and actually became fluent. And the most notable one is Matt versus Japan. Yeah, so Matt versus Japan was an AJATTer, and it looks like he started his YouTube in 2011, and he went super hard on AJATT. And he would spend about like 6 to 8 hours every single day as like a 15-year-old learning Japanese, and just got super freaking good at it. And he's arguably the most popular, Japanese learner that got like really good at the language on YouTube. Obviously, there's a lot more other ones like Dogen. Even I would even say like the Anime Man was half Japanese. I'm trying to think, where's another good like big Japanese language YouTuber, or what's another like foreigner that got really good at Japanese that's super popular? I'm sure there's more, but yeah. Here's a video of Matt versus Japan speaking Japanese. I guess this is his first like Jiko Shokai Hoi 動画。
そのネットとかを使って日本語を聞いたり、読んだり勉強したりしてました。それで結構普通に喋れるようになったんですけど、その後違う大学に転入して、そこでは結構日本人の留学生とかがいたりして、それで仲良くなって、やっと日本語。
It's crazy that I can like, it's stupid alarms. It's crazy that I like can understand like everything he's saying now. But yeah, when I first watched this, I didn't freaking understand like anything. But there's like countless clips of him speaking Japanese. And then Matt went on to form his own like kind of methods, like using the ideas from AJATT. I know there was like Refold, MIA, and then all the stuff that he's doing right now. He's still active and everything like that. But that being said, that was proof that it actually worked. People actually did it. But it wasn't just Matt versus Japan. There was another YouTuber when I first started learning Japanese that I came across called Brit versus Japan. And he uploaded video of him doing similar things. So Matt's story was that he learned in like 2 years. I think it was maybe 3 years total. It's something to like 2 or 3 years all in total. And it's the same exact thing with like Brit versus Japan. They all did AJATT. And this was, yeah, right here. 2 years full-time immersion learning Japanese, being able to make full videos in Japanese.
僕の日本語に関してその2つこれ本当に嫌だなっていうことがありまして、そのことについて少し語りたいと思います。
Here's another person who used the similar methods like AJATT and then like Matt's kind of method, which was like a lot of the same stuff. Made a 23-minute video. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. There's another video. This was like directly after this video. So 1.5 years, able to make a 21-minute video in Japanese using like these things.
どうも皆さんクリスです。これは落第騎士のキャバレリ。
Talking about his light novels.
なんかアニメを見た時からハマっていったので。
This is the stuff. Yeah, look at 2019. When I first started learning, I came across all this stuff, and I just got super interested in this.
もう何から話せばいいのかな。
I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, this is pretty cool.
それから始めるとしますか。それは超変な言い方だった。なんでそういう風に言いました？
So yeah, they're not like perfect, but Matt reacted to this video and was like, It's like, yeah, you're pretty good, right? He did an interview with them. Yeah, there's more examples of people, you know, becoming fluent pretty fast. I don't, you know, I think he says he's not really super satisfied with his results, but I can't speak Japanese like this yet. And I've been doing this since that's 2019. Okay, so there's a reason for that though. The amount of time that I put in Japanese does not compare to the amount of time that these people put in Japanese, even though they studied for a shorter amount of time. Like they got good in a few years, even though I've been studying for 5 years, because I haven't put the amount of time that they have. And so that's the one thing that I still regret, is just not putting in as much time. So it's like, even though I started studying this in 2019, like I've talked about this numerous times, but I just didn't get it. I don't know why I just magically thought that I was going to get good by spending like 30 minutes a day or 40 minutes. So like I was doing like Anki and stuff, but yeah, I didn't really get super serious about Japanese until about 2023. So there's a lot of people that criticize AJATT these days and the method, and they said that like, oh, there's a lot of people have problems with this because it goes against the common thing that you have to go to school, or you can only learn through like Duolingo and textbooks or whatever. And people really do it. And yeah, I totally forgot to talk more about like Tikio Sam. So Tikio Sam was also basically a pupil of AJATT, and he became friends. He was like the only person that actually became really close friends that was like posting on YouTube with Katsumoto. He has a lot of videos with Katsumoto, and yeah, the way that Katsumoto like talks about things, he's just a really funny guy, and like he just has this really cool sense of humor that really just kind of sucks you in when you read his stuff, and it just like makes a lot of sense of what he says. And so thanks to, all Japanese all the time, it opened up this world to where like, no, you can do this from home. Like you don't really need to go do all these things that people say and spend all this money. It is possible to do it from home. Here's my question, right? Like, do we really know? Because there's really not a lot of interviews of Katsumoto online except for Tikio Sam. Tikio Sam is the only person that actually has videos of Katsumoto at all. But it's like, could he still technically be lying about like how much time he took to learn Japanese? Yes, he could, but he was good at Japanese. There's no actual proof that that's how long he took. I think Matt vs. Japan like started his YouTube channel a little bit after like when he started learning Japanese, but we do have these other examples of people who documented this stuff. They're not super huge popular YouTubers, but they got really good at Japanese, and they made all these progress videos of doing the method and talking about it, making really long videos. And there's so many examples of online. There's even another guy, this guy named Roto, did it for English. So he's Japanese, but he basically did all Japanese all the time with English, and he got really good at English too. He had a YouTube channel, but right now the only video of him that I could find was through Mobile Mally, which is also a really cool guy that I got to meet as well.
College student studying English, and I've been friends with Mally for over 4 years. Too long. Too long.
He used to have a YouTube channel of him speaking like English, where he also like, I remember I watched those videos where he was talking about his journey of learning English using like the same methods, and it worked for him. There's a podcast that he was in talking about like all the methods they use and things like that, and it all stemmed from AJATT. It's just sad because like the original website is taken down, but like now there is like re-uploads. Thankfully there's re-uploads of all the websites. There's even a YouTube playlist of someone narrating all of the blogs from this website in English. Here it is right here. And if you want motivation to study Japanese, you should go through this. Even if you don't agree with everything that he says, the things that he says just makes, a lot of sense. And I would say the method that I use to learn Japanese is very inspired by AJATT, but I'm more on the Steve Kaufman side, where it's like massive immersion by listening and reading. So that's just what I do, but essentially a lot of it is the same concepts of just getting so much input as humanly possible. But there are a lot of people that are against like things like AJATT and saying that it's too unrealistic because the method is basically pretending like English doesn't exist. You want to eliminate English from your life and only do things in Japanese. So another thing that Katsumoto would say a lot was basically pretend that you are Japanese. And a lot of people think that that's like cringy. It might sound like weeby or cringy to say something like that, but the idea behind it is basically pretend like you are a Japanese person. If you were to like just fake being a Japanese person, whatever, you would want to do everything in Japanese, only in Japanese for literally all day long, as much as you possibly can. Like you won't get on English TikTok, you won't do any of that kind of stuff. And it's like naturally, if you were to actually do that, which I don't do that, which is why I've been studying for so long, but never never got so good is that I never really went full in to the AJATT method. When Matt versus Japan did it, I think he was like 15 years old. And back in 2006, I was busy playing video games. I wasted all of my youthful years playing video games, playing Halo, and just messing around. I never had a hobby when I was younger. And I really regret not starting Japanese when I was a little kid. I really wish I would have done that, because had I done that, yeah, I would totally be fluent and I would be doing other stuff with my life, you know, obviously. But I do have the opportunity to create this channel and document my progress. And I know that I haven't really done a lot of documenting yet. I'm about to reach the 2,000 mark of using Link. I'm about to reach the 2,000 hour mark. So an update video is coming very soon about me just talking about like my struggles and everything that I've learned up until now. I'm going to make that video. So don't worry. The document videos are coming. I kind of did it in my intro. My first video talked about like what I've learned up until now. The reality is I never went super full in. You know, only doing like at most an hour a day really is nothing compared to someone like Matt versus Japan, who's spending 6 to 8 hours a day as a kid that really has no responsibilities. The only thing that doesn't really make sense to me is that, yeah, like Katsumoto claimed that he had 2 jobs and went to college and had a girlfriend, and it's like, really, like, that's kind of crazy, isn't it? It almost seems unbelievable that someone was able to do that. That's something that we'll never really know because we weren't there. I'm not Katsumoto. I don't know if that's really what he did, but the point is he did get good at Japanese. And the things that he says does make a lot of sense. So another like controversial method that Katsumoto would use was to listen to Japanese even while you sleep. And I don't think there's any like scientific evidence to show that that's actually a good thing. But I still think that the core meaning and the core message of AJATT, all Japanese all the time, it's just such a good name. Honestly, no one's ever going to come up with a better name than all Japanese all the time. But the core method is still very, very good in my eyes. And yes, this has sparked a lot. Like, you know, a lot of people like Matt versus Japan, and a lot of people created their own communities about like studying AJATT, and would be kind of mean to people that were like, well, I kind of like textbooks. And, you know, there was a lot of drama with that kind of stuff. That kind of thing stemmed from like AJATT because, again, it's very anti-textbook. It's very anti-classroom stuff. The reality is that there are people that have gotten fluent using textbooks and classrooms. That is true. But if you don't think it's fun, then basically AJATT's just saying that you don't need to do that kind of stuff. And it's just more focused on doing it the natural way, because the reality is the textbooks do teach you unrealistic Japanese, like telling you to say "ie" to say no. Like, that's the thing that still blows my mind. It's like, why do they teach that? Why do they teach "ie" as no when nobody says it? Like, that's just a perfect example of just like kind of speaking stiff robotic Japanese. Like, if you actually spoke that kind of Japanese to Japanese people, they'd be like, well, you sound robotic, and they wouldn't probably want to be super close to you because, you know, you're not speaking natural Japanese. So it's no wonder why people got so into this AJATT, all Japanese all the time. I just love how retro this website is. Like, it's just so cool. I guess blogs were really popular around this time because, again, YouTube wasn't around, but it's a shame that it's like not officially up anymore. So Katsumoto does have a YouTube channel, and he was making videos in 2020, actually. Yeah, he made 5 years ago was his last video, and his videos are very, honestly, kind of hard to follow because of the way that he talks. It's kind of like me, honestly. Like, I'm not really good at talking or speaking. I know what my brain wants to say, but when I go to speak, it's kind of just like, I don't know if it's like ADHD or something, where you just kind of like all over the place. He's very smart. He's a very smart guy, and it's a shame that he's not really making any videos. Like, I would love to do an interview with Katsumoto. I want to talk about, like, you know, what were your thought process? I want to ask him so many more questions about, you know, AJATT creating it. Like, what are you doing now? Or, you know, or do you still speak Japanese? Like, I don't even know. Does he still speak Japanese? I imagine he probably does, but not a lot is known. He also has a Patreon that, again, that he hasn't been active in, even though there are videos from Tikio Sam, which, by the way, I forgot to explain that, yeah, Tikio Sam also got fluent in Japanese as well, using AJATT as well. So he's another great example. He has videos. I mean, I've literally got to hang out with Tikio Sam a few times in Japan, and, you know, I asked him a little bit about Katsumoto, but yeah, I would like to do some more interviews. I would like to do an interview with like all these people, Matt versus Japan, Tikio Sam. So yeah, expect that in the future. I'm gonna reach out to them and be like, hey, let's do an interview. I want to talk to you about this stuff. But yeah, this video is long and all over the place as always, but I just don't ever want AJATT to die. I want people to know about it, what it is, and this is what started. This is what started like the language learning space as we know it now. What's crazy is like at this time, there was no other technology, you know, except for like Anki that just barely came out. But now we have things like Migaku, we have websites like Link. So there's just so much more. AI, you know, is a thing now, and there's so much more language learning methods that are tools that can help you learn Japanese. So for people to do it this early is pretty impressive. Obviously, there was Japanese learners before this, but again, I think most of it was probably not self-taught. At least if there was people that did teach themselves, they didn't document it like this. But essentially, the TLDR, after you got this far in the video, immerse yourself in Japanese as much as you can. Literally pretend like English doesn't exist. Do your Anki reps every single day. So he actually didn't get to 10,000 sentences, but like that was his goal. Is like, okay, yeah, if you get to 10,000 sentences, you're basically going to be fluent. But I think another thing was like the idea that a lot of people disagree with, and I'm kind of on the fence about too, is that you can do so much input, you can just basically begin speaking because you've gotten so much input that it would just make sense to you. Now, people like Matt versus Japan, they said that that's what they did. They didn't really practice speaking. And, you know, I think for these people as well, they didn't do it as well. So a lot of people are very skeptical about this thing. And for me too. But again, I've only spent around like 2,000 to 3,000 hours learning Japanese in general. I haven't spent 10,000 hours. So maybe if I get to 10,000 hours of learning, you know, Japanese and consuming it, maybe I'll be able to do that. You know, that's the thing. I can't really say, but a lot of people push back against the idea that you can learn Japanese through input alone or a language with input alone and only speak. But I've also polled my own subscribers on my channels and they're like, yeah, dude, I learned English through YouTube. So I want to do more interviews about, you know, with these people and really get to the nitty gritty details of like, what did you actually do? You know, did you really not do any output speaking? And I want to really get to the bottom of this kind of stuff. So while I'm documenting my own journey, I want to, do that. So look forward to that. And essentially, that is what AJATT was, okay? Just spend as much time as you possibly can in Japanese. I still highly recommend you read like these blogs because they're just really motivational. But don't do what I do and only spend an hour a day, because then you'll spend forever to learn it. Now I'm doing a lot more. There was so much stuff that I missed. Like I totally forgot to talk about Katsumoto's like inspiration, which was this website called Antimoon, which is like, so yeah, there was this website called Antimoon. I believe these guys, I think they spoke Spanish, and I can't remember what language they spoke, but it was these like two guys that learned English to fluency through like basically a lot of the same methods, and they documented their journey on their website called Antimoon. And so basically this is the Japanese version of Antimoon. There's a lot of videos of people talking about AJATT, but I don't want it to die because AJATT is just so cool. I wish I could have been a part of it, but it still fascinates me. And if you're looking for motivation, just watch the AJATT playlist on YouTube, or like find this website and go through the blogs because it's just really cool. I'll try to link all the resources down below. Check it out. And yeah, look forward to my videos, I guess. Yeah, update video coming soon. Look forward to that. I want to do some interviews and yeah, get back to learning Japanese because that's what I need to do.